Hi there everybody. We are going today to be transforming this little nightstand, probably, that's what I would call it. Small cabinet. I think it's about the right size for a nightstand though. I bought it from my local Habitat for Humanity Restore. That's a fantastic place to go look for furniture if you have one available and you've never checked there. It was inexpensive, 10-15 bucks maybe. It's made of good wood. It's got some wood veneer on it, but that's okay. It's still not wood laminate. That's what I try to avoid, which wood laminate is that plastic stuff. Wood veneer is completely fine. It still paints great. And it's got good bones. It's sturdy. And so it's the perfect size though to do something kind of fun with, because it's small, it's an accent piece of furniture, and those are the pieces of furniture that I like to play with and do fun things with from time to time. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to use 3 different colors of metallics, and we're going to layer them on top of each other to create kind of this really glam layered metallic finish that's going to wind up looking like something that is coming from Anthropologie or some kind of crazy place like that. If you look up metallic furniture online, there are some really, really expensive metallic furniture pieces that kind of come from these high-end furniture stores, Wisteria and Anthropologie and just some other places like that that kind of have more edgy things. I'm talking $1,200 to $1,500 pieces of furniture. So we can create a look that's really similar to that and really kind of channels that glam with just some metallic paint and something that's much, much less expensive. So I've already prepped this. Now it was grimy. It was really, really dirty. So I did my usual cleaning with Fusion's TSP. I went ahead and used that because that's the strongest stuff that I have to use. And show you guys, like, my sponge started clean and you can see how grimy it got. And then this is what I wiped all off of it. So it was really grimy. You always, again, want to pay attention to that grease and grime. That's what's going to cause your problems with your paint adhering well. So I think we're good. I've kind of run my hands all along and it feels pretty smooth. I don't feel any sticky spots left, but I'll know pretty early on if I'm having any problems with it. But I did take some time to really clean it well. I even used a scraper in some spots to kind of scrape some of the grime and grit off. It just was really gross. So I did that, and then I went over it with some sandpaper. I had a 150 grit on hand. That's what I used. And so just went over it real quick with sandpaper. I am not worrying, like, there's a place here on the top and a couple places down here on the bottom where the finish is kind of chipping off, and to be honest, like, I'm not going to really worry about getting that super smooth, because with the paint finish that we're doing, it's what I call messy painting, and you're not going to be able to really tell if the finish is uneven in any of those spots. We're going to kind of cover all of that up. So work smarter, not harder with your pieces. Now, if you're going for a super sleek, smooth, one color, then yeah, you want to smooth all of that stuff out first. If you're doing something kind of funky and you're layering some colors, then you can, you cannot worry quite so much about getting your bottom wood super, super smooth, as long as it's clean, okay? So I've got, let's see, right here I have the Fusion Mineral Paint Vintage Gold. Sorry, I know it's hard to see that with the glare. And these are the new metallic colors that they have out. And then I have the Rose Gold. And then I have the Champagne Gold. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with a base coat of the Vintage Gold, and that's going to go kind of solid coverage on here, and then we're going to layer these 2 on top with some dry brushing and just kind of playing around with them. I'm using just some basic flat chip brushes. Now these are just the 2-inch workshop brushes that I have. They're a little bit better than like the chip brushes that you go buy at Walmart. They don't shed bristles, they still paint nice and smooth. But because, like, again, we're kind of doing messy painting with this, I'm not breaking out my big fancy nice paint brushes. I'm perfectly okay with using these. A few tips when working with metallics, especially if you want your finish to be really smooth. If you're only using one color, then you want to only paint in one direction, okay? Everything you want to do in one direction. You don't want to do this back and forth, because what that does is it lays down those metallic pigments in different directions, and then it makes them reflect light in different directions, and so you get a streaky look. So we're not going to worry about that. Again, since we're layering colors, I can paint a little bit messier, and that's going to be okay. But know that if you ever want to do just a solid coat of the metallics, and I think that's if you're using fusion or any sort of metallic, it has to do with those pigments. Lay them down so they're all facing the same direction, and they all reflect light in the same direction, and that's going to help minimize your streakiness. Okay, so I'm going to get started here, and I'll tell you guys too, I'm not taking the doors off of this because this piece is mainly just for show here. I bought it to do this tutorial. I may turn around and sell it at some point, I don't know, but just for the ease of the tutorial, I'm leaving these doors on. Now, if I was doing this to sell, I probably would take them off, but you know, I'm not going to worry about that here. But you know, I can get most of the lip. I can't get quite all of it, but know that if I was going to sell it, I'd probably take the doors off to make sure that I can get around here really good. That's the reason why I'm leaving them on here today. So, okay, well, we're going to get started. I'm just going to shake up my paint good. And I've already kind of practiced this on a sample board so that I have my technique down, and that's a great tip for if you're wanting to try something new. Before you ever put it on your furniture, get a sample board and kind of mess with that. In fact, here's my sample board. I know it just looks like one big shiny thing. You see that? This part obviously is not painted. This is the part I painted and played with. That's going to save you from having to repaint something if you don't like how it's turning out. So get you a board. That one was already stained. You don't have to stain it, you know, whatever. But practice on a sample board first. So we're just going to start getting this on. Some of these metallic colors have really good coverage. Some of them not so much. This one's pretty decent. I have found that the bronze and the copper by far have the best coverage. This one's not bad. But already, like, I can see it just looks so shiny in the video. You can see the shine, goodness, that it has created. It's like, wow, immediate. So I like layering metallics. I kind of use this same technique with different color metallics in a nightstand for a client, that a custom work client that I did several years ago, and she loved how it turned out. She kind of wanted the look of an old mirrored finish that's kind of starting to have the silver backing come off and get a little blackened spots, you know what I'm talking about, like an antiqued mirror finish. That's what she was going for. And so she was one of those custom work clients that you love, that just let me play and kind of do things how I wanted to do it. I love those. I need to get this open. So anyway, I used some other colors and just layered the metallics, and I love how it turned out. So I think it gives it a little bit more of a sophisticated look than just doing a solid metallic. I think that can totally work too, but I think when you layer some of them together, it just adds some extra visual interest to your piece, and it makes it look really unique, and it's not difficult to do. It is not a difficult look to get. And yes, we are using 3 different products, so that's a little bit of an investment. We're not going to come close to using all of this, and so we can save it for another project. And in fact, we're going to use so little of the other 2 colors that a small tester size would probably be fine. If if you're worried about cost investment, which I want you to be thinking about that. I want you to always be thinking, you know, what is the investment I need to put in this piece? Remember, the paint you buy is a cost, and so you've got to factor that in. You got to decide, can you sell that piece of furniture for enough to make up for that cost of paint? All right, if you can't, then don't buy the paint. Or buy the paint and make sure to use it on like 3 different pieces, so you spread the cost out and you get your money's worth. Always, always, always be thinking about your bottom line on your cost. So I'm just painting right over the hinges too. I'm gonna do that. Again, I'm just being kind of lazy with this today. Like this side. So the coverage on this is pretty good. I'm gonna wait until it dries all the way. I might go ahead and slide another coat on it. I might just touch up some spots. I'm not trying to get it completely covered, because again, I'm gonna wind up putting some other colors on it, but I do wanna make sure that none of this orangey is showing through. So I may go back and add another coat after it's dry. So I'm gonna stop the video here though. I'm gonna keep painting the rest of it, and then we'll come back when it's all dry. Okay, thanks. All right, so as you just saw, there's still a little bit of orangey peeking through from this first coat. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do a quick second coat of this same vintage gold color. I'm not gonna worry about making it too perfect, because some parts look okay. Really just gonna focus on those parts where you can still see a little bit of the orange coming through. Okay, we're back, and we have painted our second coat of the vintage gold on here, and it looks really nice. It's got much more of that full coverage look that I was going for. There's still a few places here and there that maybe I could dab a little bit more, but on the whole, I'm fine with this. And this color is actually really pretty on its own. It looks really nice on its own. I think that if you wanted to stop here and add like an antique glaze, or add a little bit of espresso wax, maybe even in the details, that could just really kind of help bring a little bit of depth to the finish. But on its own, this is kind of a pretty sophisticated color, and it looks good. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take it a few steps further, just to give this finish a little bit more depth. So again, remember that this is our sample board, and I know it's hard to see, there you go. It's hard to see with the glare, but you can tell that it's just got a little bit more to it than just this one straight metallic color. So we're gonna start dry brushing on the rose gold and the champagne gold. That's gonna be our next steps. All right, we're back. And so I have my, all right, so we're gonna start now adding a little bit of depth with this metallic rose gold. And again, we're gonna use such a little bit of this that a tiny tester of it is probably plenty for this project if you don't think that you'll use more of this again. And I've got just another flat brush, and then I've got my paper towels here. And remember when we dry brushed in our last video that we only dab a little bit of paint onto our brush, and then we dab off most of the excess. Now the difference in this is that I'm gonna leave a little bit more paint on the brush than I did last time. And that's because when I was, again, working on my sample board, I decided if I dabbed it off as much as I usually do, then we could hardly see it at all. And I wanted the pinky rose to show up just a little bit more. So we're just gonna start. Ooh, that may be a tiny bit too much. We're just gonna start just brushing it down. And I know that's kind of hard. There we go. It's hard to see. Got a little bit too much right there. Maybe hard for you guys to see the difference in it. But all I'm doing is just kind of adding it just little hints of it. You can see a little bit right here where you're getting to see a little bit of that rose. What winds up happening though, and what I really like about this technique, is that when you look at the piece in different lights, you wind up seeing different colors. Different colors get accented, and I think that's really cool. So I'm still not pushing very heavy on my brush. I'm being very light with it. And just adding a little bit of that pinky color in. You guys can see it kind of right in here and in here. And what that's doing is just giving some depth to this finish, okay? I'm gonna keep working my way around the rest of the piece, and then we'll come back. We're gonna do the same thing with the champagne gold, and then we'll see how it all comes together. Okay, so that was super quick. That didn't take long at all. Now we're gonna add, this is our highlight color. It's the lightest of all of them, and it's the champagne gold. And we're gonna go back and just do the same process that we did with the rose gold and, well, not the vintage gold, because that we painted on full strength. So, but this is very similar. It's just a tad lighter. And I'm not even gonna change out my brush. I'm gonna use the same brush. I just folded over my paper towel and just gonna start with the same thing again. And this light, I'm really having a hard time getting it to where you guys can see, and it's not just where you guys can see, and it's not just glare. So I apologize for that, but I promise once we get to the end and I get to go take some pictures of this that you'll be able to see. Okay, that's a little too much. You'll be able to see the differences. So like right here, I've got a little too much on. I'm gonna go wipe some of that off. But you can see that here, the lighter, this lighter gold right there. There you go. So the same process, getting it on my brush, dabbing it, and then just touching it in very lightly. Getting a little bit more on my brush. When you're dry brushing, if you'll hold your brush really light, that will help you not get more than what you want to get on there. And that pink is still, that's on there, it's still just a tiny bit wet, so it's kind of working into, and that's okay. I didn't really wait for the pink to dry. Went on ahead and put this in anyway. Added this next layer. And it's just a matter of kind of keep working it until you kind of get the pattern that you want. And that's so hard to see. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep going through and adding in this last color, and then I'm gonna come and get my nice camera out and try and get some pictures of this to really capture kind of what this finish looks like when it's all said and done, because I know it's just really hard to see with the glare. I know it just kind of looks like one big solid thing, but I want you guys to see the depth that these three colors create together. Okay, so I'm gonna keep working on it, that same process, dabbing onto my brush, dabbing on the paper towel, and then just kind of lightly brushing it on. I'm gonna go all the way through, and then I'll see you guys back. Okay, as you can see, we have moved inside because I was just not able to really see well outside. And so I've moved the piece inside, and I have finished dry brushing the top color, the champagne gold. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I am not 100% loving it. Like, there's still something that just looks like it's not quite right. The three colors aren't pulling together quite how I want them to. And so typically, whenever I've had issues like that, issues with kind of bringing colors together, what seems to do that well is a little bit of dark wax or antique glaze. That seems to be the thing that just kind of softens the lines between any colors and pulls them all together. So I started on the other panel, just applying with an old round wax brush that I have, a pretty heavy coat of this espresso wax, and it did the trick. It did it. And so it kind of just, it makes the stop and start lines of the lightest colors and of the red, of the rose, like you just don't really see them. The colors just all kind of blend and layer together so much well. So I am gonna finish this off with some espresso wax, and that wasn't in the original plan, but that's what happens sometimes when you're painting something, right? So I'm gonna be pretty generous with it, and I'm just gonna dip my brush down in there, and then I'm really just gonna start brushing it on, kind of focusing on getting it in this kind of crack right here. And if you've never waxed fusion, like, waxing fusion is very different than waxing a chalk type paint, because it's not porous, so the wax does not soak in like you're used to it doing. So if you want like a really heavy wax finish, you kind of have to leave it on there and let it dry, which typically with your chalk paint you don't want to do. I'm just going to keep really kind of applying it heavy down into this kind of recess there, and then I'll just start brushing it on everywhere else, working it in. And what it's doing is it's adding a little bit more look of age to it, and you still have that metallic shimmer, but the three colors now just kind of all meld together. It's crazy how a little bit of wax will do that. A little bit of a dark wax will do that. I'm also gonna make sure to leave it kind of right here in this line. And there's a good little bit on there. And I really am just gonna kind of let most of it dry on there. There are a million different ways to apply wax. You can go in a circle, you can brush it. I do a little bit of both. I just kind of keep working on it until it looks how I want it to look. But I'm glad that this worked, because honestly, I was a little discouraged. It's like, this just isn't looking like my sample board. Not looking exactly what I wanted it to look like. So the fact that this is working looks great. And it's just giving it that more metallic patina that I was going for. Not something that looks shiny new metallic, but something that's a much older, aged metallic. All right, I'm gonna kind of just buff a little bit of this off. I'm trying to leave most of it on there. It took some of it off, but I'm trying to leave most of it on there. Okay, can you see the difference? Just how it added even more depth to the finish, and now all of those colors just kind of come together. So I'm gonna keep doing this all the way around. Just pushing the wax kind of up into any recesses that I have. Now, I love the waxes that Fusion Homestead House makes. The Miss Mustard Seed waxes are the same ones. They're made by a company, I think Clapham. I forget the name, but I think it's Clapham. Anyway, the base wax for Fusion Homestead House Miss Mustard Seed is all the same. And it really is a great wax. If you've been burned by wax before, which I have, I've never had issues with this wax. It applies smoothly. It doesn't have that stinky gasoline odor. And sometimes my clear wax from some other lines I've used has gone hazy, and I haven't had that problem with this. So use what you have on hand, but if you wanted to try, if you've been kind of burned by waxes before and you wanted to try something, these really are fantastic. So, okay. Yay, that fixed my problem. Now I'm gonna go finish this last step, and then I'll photograph this piece and show you guys the amazing finish that's now on here. Okay, so I know a question you may have is something like that really gonna sell? Like, what's the point in learning to paint kind of a funky finish if it's not gonna sell? So here's my philosophy on painting furniture to sell. I don't think that you have to paint everything white or everything black or everything gray. I've never ever ascribed to that, because that is, gosh, I would be so bored. I would be so bored if I had to do that. So I think that there is completely room for you to do some creative things every now and then with your furniture. Especially if you're taking your business online at all, if you're doing a lot with your social media, like, people are looking for unique things and they're looking for somebody to stand out. And so there's so many people painting and selling things now. But if everybody's painting the same way, how are you going to make yourself and your business stand out? So I think it's great to expand your skills, to expand your skill set, to expand the kind of things you can paint, the type of painting that you do. Of course, if your business is built on bread and butter, you know, those things, those white pieces and those black pieces just constantly selling, that's great. Keep doing that. But I want to challenge you to kind of upscale what you're painting a little bit. Challenge you to try some new things, to create some different colors or some different finishes, to do something to set your business apart. And then that will also give you just a broader range when you have some custom clients, like, hey, I can play with this finish, I can try this. So you need something to make you stand out. I always tell people, you don't want to be the Walmart, you want to be the Target. Right? I hope that makes sense. Like, you don't want to be the place where people go just when they want something and they just need a piece of furniture. You want to be the place that people go when they're looking for something specific and where they're expecting to find something really cool, right? And that's the difference between shopping at Walmart or Target. We go to Walmart when we just need whatever and we don't care, we just want to pay the lowest price. We go to Target, we know we may pay a little bit more, we know the selection's gonna be better, we're expecting to see things that we like and different things and cool things. So make your business the Target, okay? Paint that white and black stuff, sell it, but throw some things in there that are gonna attract just a broader audience and some things that are gonna make you look unique and different.